Live from the architect's office, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Welcome, Tim.
Hello.
This is a little more unsettling than our last couple places.
It's very weird seeing all these screens of me. I think they're all me. They seem to all be wearing the same outfit.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you look in a mirror and a mirror and a mirror, and there's too many of us.
It's a little disconcerting.
Yes.
And that guy with the white beard is just staring at us over there.
He looks like he's going to try to lecture us about something. Maybe we can just ignore him. Can you do that? Is there a door?
I think there's a door right over here.
Okay. We'll see.
We'll see. If he starts bugging us, we'll hightail out of here.
Maybe we have a new listener.
Hey, we'll take that.
Yes.
I mean, he's a little late to the game here, but anyway.
Anyways, welcome to Derailed Trains of Thought, your premier podcast on storytelling.
For the creator and the consumer. My name is Timothy Deal.
My name is Nick Hayden, and we welcome you to episode 149.
Yes, believe it or not, this is the penultimate episode before our hiatus.
The only reason I have penultimate episode is so they can say the word penultimate.
Basically.
Yeah, it's a great word.
Yeah.
You can only get to use it once.
They're one of those special words that have a very specific purpose.
And it always worked. I mean, it just feels good to say.
It is penultimate.
Mm-hmm. And the next episode is the ultimate episode.
The ultimate, I guess. But
yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, but that's jumping ahead.
Yeah.
So, any news before we get started here?
Any news? We actually had some blue skies a few days ago.
I know, it was nice.
I know, it's been a very cloudy, gloomy
Indiana.
winter so far.
I'm sure there's other places, but I miss the sun. I don't care about the cold, but give me some sunshine.
I mean, I would like some more snow. Like, if it's going to be cold, I'd just as soon have snow. I've said this
sunshine.
Before. Yes, snow and sun. I mean, at least if you have snow, it's still inherently brighter than if you have clouds and no snow.
Correct.
So, anyway,
that was your weather update? We need a new segment, weather update from Indiana.
Well, again, February, there's not much news going on. So,
Nope. All right. Well, let's go on into story school. So we thought, in tradition of our podcast, so way back in episode 1...
I think we touched on this last time. But
did we talk about this last time?
But it's a good reminder, yeah.
We talked about endings for our first episode.
Yep.
And somewhere along the line, at one of our other hiatuses...
Just before another hiatus.
We talked about beginnings.
Yes.
So it's about time to talk about middles.
Middle, yeah. This has been on the topic list for a while, but we were saving it just for the right moment.
For the penultimate episode.
Yes. And thought about doing it for the 150th, but that didn't seem quite satisfying.
No, you don't want middle for the end.
Yeah. We can do middle for the penultimate.
Yeah, there we go.
The near end, I guess.
So anyways, I was thinking just a little bit about the middle. I feel like when we say the middle so often, it's going to start sounding like nonsense. But in English class in middle school, you always learn that, like, that plot diagram, the little mountain thing is like exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, or denouement, and resolution.
Which works somehow even whether you're doing a 3-act or a 5-act structure.
Yeah.
They both have that kind of peak in the middle, which I remember surprising me back in the day. I'd always be like, why isn't the peak at the climax at the very end? But I guess the idea of, like, first you introduce your story, Act 1, rising action, Act 2, Act 3, I guess, is what do they call it?
Well, the climax is where everything changes. There's a point of no return. And then it's all falling action or denouement, if you want to be fancy, like Hotel Denouement from...
Yeah, but
it's basically, you make that decision, then the last action scene is basically just fallout.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, it sounds counterintuitive in some ways, I think, because as a kid, I always expected, that it's just going to get more exciting up until you get to the ending. And that's when you have your faction. So the idea that it's falling action is like, what? But it makes sense that, like, in a fallout, sort of like, these are the results of something that has happened.
Whatever the main conflict is, the protagonist has made his major decision, and everything is basically destined after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, we're talking before the climax for the middle.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, at least that's my perception of it.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what's the trick here. Like, sometimes it feels like the climax is the last act.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say, let's look at the original Avengers.
Okay.
In some ways, the Battle of New York feels like the climax. It's the moment where everything's going on.
Yeah.
But that's very clearly pretty late in the game. It feels like an Act 4, Act 5 sort of thing. So what's the pinnacle before then, Act 3? Probably when there's, a lot of Act 2 is building tensions between the Avengers who don't trust each other or S.H.I.E.L.D. for a lot.
So is Coulson's death the climax?
Probably.
Yeah, I think you're right. I guess when I was thinking of middle, though, I was thinking basically all that rising action stuff.
Sure. Okay.
All that. And again, like if you do the diagram, it's always it's the longest line.
Yeah.
It's just like, and stuff happens. You're defining for students, this was your background, and this is just the story, and then climax, and then like this is just the stuff.
Yeah, the stuff, the getting to it.
And I think the problem, not the problem, but the difficulty with middles, at least as a creator, I'm coming from a creative point of view, is that most of the times for me, I know kind of the background, the getting going, and I know kind of the big points, but like, how do you get there?
Yeah. How do you get the ball rolling and then keep it moving? I mean, and we'll probably have two different fronts of this discussion.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the middle of just an individual story and then like of a series or like a trilogy.
Because then trilogies and series have they have like a meta rhythm on top of the... Well, and again, that's even in the story, in a book, like chapters will have a rhythm and then all the chapters build to another...
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of both and in some ways, but like it's when you're talking about a series, it's a little different from like the individual story.
Yes, I agree.
So, but anyway, so let's talk first about like within the story itself, a single story.
And I think because you always, as an audience member, you want to stay interesting. You want to always find one more thing, like in a mystery, you want one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. The problem is the danger is how to keep the one more thing not being one more thing.
Yeah. At what point does the story start getting muddled because you're just trying to keep plates spinning and
plate spinning or too much? You're just trying to add drama that isn't essential drama.
Yeah, or maybe you're just so interested in your characters that you want to explore their angst for a little bit farther, and you're not bringing it over the hump. Climax of stuff. It's still weird to me to think of the climax as not being in the. It feels like the climax should be like in the last third, essentially.
And I think sometimes it is.
Yeah.
I think people, and again, I think there's sometimes mini climaxes and like the more complex the story gets.
And I guess probably if we're looking at like a Shakespeare use of the 5 acts, probably acts 1 to 3 are a lot longer than acts 4 and 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that must be another reason why. But
I think the hard thing is that we have this need for novelty and forward motion. We always say, the story got bogged down.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing to do. Like right now, my wife's watching with my daughter season 3 of Once Upon a Time.
Oh, okay.
Which we always remember as being like just wandering around the jungle in Neverland forever.
Oh, yeah. That mess. Yeah.
So there's a weird thing where like an author or a story creator can create new events, but if it doesn't feel like it's moving, progressing, I don't know if it's the characters or the theme or, you can have things happening without feel like you're getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing about the middle. Like you can have motion without progress.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time seemed to have that problem a lot, actually. Mm-hmm. Like the pacing was always one of their weakest points, I often felt like.
Especially after season 1 or 2.
Yeah. Nice thing about season 1 is that it was like exploring new world and like it was a very self-contained thing almost. And then when they were going forward to like, okay, we want to do the same similar sorts of things with these characters because we like these particular dynamics, but how do you keep that moving?
So let's use that real quick. Just talk about what do you think are some of the pitfalls or dangers in a middle? Things that you've noticed that tends to just muddy the waters.
Well, I do think the author or the creator's hesitation sometimes to pull the pen. Can be a big issue. Like they know that if certain things happen, it's going to change the game, and then suddenly falling action.
The fallout has to happen then,
right?
So they keep pushing it off.
Yeah, and I think that's
probably more of a TV thing than a book, or not necessarily.
Probably more so, but I could see it happening in a book.
I mean, I would say like probably the biggest flaw to the second book of Stern Fred is it takes too long for anything to happen.
Mm.
And we could argue on a different time why or whether I should change it or whatever. But I think part of it was not so much I didn't want to pull a pin, but I didn't feel like the characters were in the right spot to pull it yet. Like I didn't know it was believable yet. So I feel like I spent a long time moving character motivations around. Whether that was right or wrong. But I think that's that same thing, that pulling the pin, like you take too long to get to, there's this build up tension and it's got to be a release, but then you just
wait, hang on, we're going to do some more stuff. We're going to do some more soul searching.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something to be said for some of that. I mean, I remember I used to say that book 2 is basically season 2 of Babylon 5. Like this kind of rising tension of things going on.
And I think, I suppose it's kind of an audience thing, that how will you deal with middles? Because I think some audiences are made more modern, more one, let's get to it, versus the slow burn. I mean, there's a place for a slow burn.
Yeah.
And I think some of it's how you write it.
Sure.
But some of it might be what you're expecting to a certain extent.
Yeah. No, that's very fair. I mean, it's interesting to me how superhero shows, whether TV or movies, often don't keep the secret identity going for super long. I mean, I think you had Aunt May finding out about Spider-Man in the second Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. In comparison, like Superman and Lois Lane didn't officially get together for like 50 years until they finally got married in the 90s.
And a lot of the earlier TV shows like Lois and Clark or even Smallville, no one ever found out hardly.
Yeah.
In Smallville, every once in a while someone would find out.
Yeah. And Lois and Clark. Well,
they got married eventually, didn't they?
They did, I think, in like season 3 or 4.
Okay.
The show's not as long as you think it was, just because it was
syndicated and we didn't watch all at once. And,
yeah. And we were kids.
Yeah, exactly. And everything's long when you're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it's interesting. Nowadays, we don't have this tendency to want to keep the status quo for a super long time, which, again, good or bad.
Yeah, and I guess in the superhero case, it's probably because it's been played out in
probably
so many different times. And there are other dramatic moments they want to keep as opposed to also doing that one.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. I mean, like I said, Superman did 50 years of having a secret identity, and Lois is like, okay, let's get on. Let's do something else.
I think another possible downfall of middles is sometimes, and I used to complain about this more, it still happens in the TV shows, to keep ramping up unnecessary drama.
Yeah, sure.
Just let's make them feel. And sometimes somewhat disconnected to the larger momentums going on.
Yeah.
Like let's add something new in and something new. I suppose that's kind of was, we talked about Core of the Air.
Oh, the book?
The book, which you listened to the last episode for our thoughts on that. But they almost derailed the forward momentum and constantly bringing new
ideas.
And now that's different than new drama, but it's similar.
It is similar, yeah. Interestingly, I can think of another superhero example of this. One of the books that I read most thoroughly was Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay.
Which was I read like 120 some issues of that.
And it condenses like 40 years to Spider-Man, correct?
Yes, basically, which is what I appreciate about it, because like I've never read original universe Spider-Man that much, really. So this was a nice way to kind of get
the highlights.
The highlights, yeah, basically. But it also, I remember feeling like toward the latter half of that has this tendency, and I think the mainline books do this too, of piling problem after on Peter Parker, to the point where like, how is Peter not like in a mental institution by this point? Yeah, all these things that he has to deal with. Yeah, one of the challenges of ongoing story, of keeping it interesting without like making it so over dramatic that like your guy is going nuts.
I wonder, I don't know if this is a problem with middles or this is more of an ending thing. Sometimes they raise the stakes so much that when they solve it, you're like, but what about all this other stuff that you kind of just brushed under the rug? Like half the city just died, but yay, the good guy won. And you're like, and they don't deal with any of that. I don't know if that's a middle problem or an ending problem, but it's probably both.
It might be a little bit of both. I mean, I remember one of the last wars in Naruto.
Yeah.
When I was reading the manga on a weekly basis, and toward the end, I had lost so much track of what was going on. It's like, is this all happening in the same day? Was this multiple days? How long has it been since Naruto left this island and like this other long fight? It got to be ridiculous, and like ultimate fight after ultimate fight, and being like, okay, this just feels meaningless at this point. So yes, whether it's a middle or ending, dragging something on too long really saps the energy out of something.
Yeah. Do you have other kind of versions of things that go wrong in middles before we tackle maybe the other side of it?
That's about all I got, as far as I know.
So again, it's hard to speak in specifics, but what do you think exemplifies a really well put together middle?
An individual story, are we still talking about? Or are you talking about
sure.
like trilogy?
Let's finish the individual stories up, and then we'll go to trilogies or series. Yeah.
Well, I think some genres might have an advantage of this, because I was thinking today about the different books of the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
The first one, Fellowship, is kind of distinct in that it's a travel book.
Yes, you have a known ending in some ways.
Yeah, even though I guess Frodo and Sam continue on to the travel motif, and the other characters kind of do other stuff. Fellowship is all a travel, and I guess in that one you still kind of have two distinct parts, like the trip to Rivendell, and then there's kind of a nice little middle there where you're like kind of catch your break. So I guess this is a good example of this. You kind of catch your breath, reconvene with everyone, evaluate, get a bigger picture of what's going on in the world, and then continue moving on from there. But I guess what I was originally thinking is, let's say The Hobbit, for instance, that's a little bit more focused on a travel story. I mean, you don't have to worry about being bogged down because you're constantly moving forward in a certain direction. I mean, I guess you could say like something out like being trapped in the elves forest is a bit of a bog down, but it's like an adventure along the way.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true in that if the reader, viewer doesn't have a sense of at least where you think you're going, even if that's not where you end up, if you don't have a well-defined, I don't know, you can mess with that, direction, the middle feels bad even if it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes a big difference.
See, sometimes you go back, you're like, okay, I get the middle now, but I didn't the first time because I didn't know what the point was. Mm-hmm. Where at least if you have an ending, even if it's a fake out, at least then you're understanding what's happening in the middle based on where you think you're going.
Yeah. Remember what we talked about last episode, having the audience's frame of reference or being able to put yourself in the audience's shoes can help a lot in knowing, okay, we've got a plan, or at least, or sometimes, if you want them to be confused for the right reasons.
Yes. Yeah. So they still have a frame of reference. They still have when you have no direction at all, you're just like, am I waiting for this or that, or what am I waiting for?
Yeah. So speaking of mysteries, we just recently read the first Poirot book for our book club.
Yes, which was great.
Which was a lot of fun. And the great thing about a mystery where you've got the central detective is that even if your reader or viewer is kind of befuddled by the mass of clues and red herrings going around, at least there's a detective that kind of knows, all right, this is where we're going. We're going to unravel things. And even if...
And he gives a signpost of like, I'm closer. I'm almost there. I need one more clue.
Yes.
So you're like, okay, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. And sometimes if you have your Dr. Watson, or in that book, Hastings, your narrator who kind of lets the audience have a... what do they call that? Point of view, basically, you're going through. Again, it's another grounding, like the narrator who's just as confused but is going along with the detective.
I think this is slightly off with the middle, but I found that the fantasy sci-fi shows that work the best are the ones where you have at least one character who's as baffled or as confused or as whatever as the audience. Especially if it's a little over-the-top show.
Sure.
But if you play it completely serious and no one's saying what you're thinking, you're like, what's going on? Or why are they doing that?
Yeah.
And at least having one person secretly kind of say like, yeah, this is ridiculous, or this is hardcore, or I'm explaining the world that doesn't make any sense to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's one reason why early MCU was pretty successful. People would say that sometimes the characters who would like talk sardonically about the things that are going on around them, at some point it would sap the drama. They relied on that a little too heavily. But early on, when we're doing things with superhero movies that hadn't really been done before, it was good to have someone take a back seat and like, oh wow, this is weird.
This is weird. Yeah. Because it's hard to play something weird straight until it takes more suspension of disbelief until you get used to it.
Until you get used to it, and until the genre establishes itself, and then now that has, we're like, okay, keep going, go as weird as you want. Talking raccoon, let's go with it. Exactly.
I think something else I thought of while you were talking is that I think middles do need consistent payoffs. Like, okay, you're not to the climax yet, but we need to feel like we're making some sort of progress, or recognition that we're not, and we're going to do something about it.
Yeah.
That's your mystery example gave me that, because on mysteries, you're always like, here's a couple more clues. Here's a couple more clues. You feel like you're getting somewhere.
Some sort of breakthrough. Yeah.
So you got this sort of, I mean, I don't think the middle is just straight rising. We say it rising action, but I don't think it's just nonstop action. I think you have those moments of rest. You have those little, what do they call it? What does Miyazaki say? Is that that pause? I saw a video about the pause to just kind of let things
simmer a little bit. Yeah, it makes sense because you want to have your peaks and valleys. Like you can't,
even going up, even little ones going up.
Right. And say J. Michael is pretty good at this sort of thing in Babylon 5. Like you've got your rising threat of the shadows, but basically every episode is the characters dealing with an individual threat or like getting their alliance put together.
And I suppose, since we're slowly transitioning to series and trilogies, is that, especially series, the episodes act like it's like each episode has
an arc.
An arc, but they're also working as a larger arc theoretically, and which is impressive, actually.
Yeah.
When you think about it that way, there's like wheels within wheels.
Yes. And that's a very TV thing. I mean, I guess we've talked before about Lost, how
a couple times,
and how they were kind of bogged down in season 3,
and they knew it.
They're like, we need an endpoint. We need to be able to
pull the trigger, or pull the pin.
Yeah, we got to be able to say, here's where we're going. We got to be able to plan to like have these. And again, once they had a game plan, like, all right, you're gonna have 3 mini seasons. Basically, they were able to do kind of little arcs within each season.
And I suppose that it's like pulling the pin. Middles need momentum of some sort. I mean, we need these rhythms, but we need, and I think that's what the destination helps, that momentum. Where are we going? Is that we have 5 days till the bomb goes off. Whatever it is, we got to feel like we're making progress.
Yeah.
It's a story. Like, stories are interesting because there is a beginning, middle, and end. The middle is basically only there to get between the beginning and the end.
Yeah. That's one way you can look at it. Since we're on trilogies now.
Yeah, go for it. Yep.
Let's talk about Empire Strikes Back versus The Last Jedi.
Okay.
They're both the middle movies in their particular trilogies.
Yes.
And I remember, I think I might have actually made this topic on our list sometime after watching Last Jedi, which must have been several years ago now because I've been meaning to rewatch it. Rewatch the sequels in general. But Empire Strikes Back, largely considered one of the best Star Wars movies ever. It's the middle of a trilogy.
Yes.
The Last Jedi, very divisive movie. Yes. Some people love it. Some people hate it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference here, do you think?
Well, I think Empire Strikes Back, what it has for it is, and again, trilogies, I think, need to do this. Then you take what the original one did well, and they need to deepen something and open new territory without changing the fundamental feel of the world.
Sure. Yeah.
So, Empire Strikes Back, we deepen Darth Vader's more in it. The Empire is larger, that the rebels now they're not winning anymore. Now they're losing. Luke is training. There's just like everything has got to its logical conclusion in some ways. Like,
okay.
Like, yeah, we won, but then what?
Yeah. And there's more problem. Yeah. More to deal with.
So everyone's progressing. Darth Vader's pushing to win.
He realizes this Luke guy is important, and we don't know why, but he knows how.
Han's sins are coming to roost. Luke is training. Leia, there's romance all over the place. So everything is progressing from where it was in book one, in the first one.
Right.
In a natural, you may not have guessed it if you had just read, say, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, but
hopefully not.
Meanwhile, Last Jedi.
Let me say one other thing about Empire. It also is seeding what's to come.
And then, because the middle is also saying, like, this is direction, but we don't finish the stories. We don't finish the training, really.
Yeah. We got to go rescue Han.
Han is rescued. Darth Vader never really got what he wanted.
That's true.
The romance is left I love you, I know, but then it's broken.
Yeah.
So everything is progressing forward and then cut off.
Yeah. Luke has this big question about his father, which is it's interesting. We don't even talk about Luke's father in Empire Strikes Back up until that scene with Darth Vader, even though it had been an important plot point early in the previous movie. That's another reason why it probably blindsided people because it had came out of nowhere. Yeah.
So, I think what does really well is both continue things that maybe were unspoken in the first one and move into logical conclusions without actually concluding it.
Yeah.
So Return of the Jedi is basically all climax and falling action because you start the movie and suddenly Luke's acting trained. They rescue Han. I mean, then the Darth Vader thing gets put, that's the climax. But They don't lose any time in continuing and in many ways fulfilling one right after another various things they had started. But also by adding new things. We got this Jabba the Hutt guy and and there's a second Death Star. The Emperor shows up for once and you're like,
oh yeah, we've only heard rumors and seen him
his face
in a hologram. Yeah.
So it does really well that sort of like exposition, first movie.
Yeah.
Get to know the world. We're going to ramp everything way up and we're going to fulfill it. We're going to make you feel complete and like, it's done. Last Jedi, first off, it doesn't have as good of a starting one to go off of. I mean, you basically have... I know it's weird.
Force Awakens. I mean, it's trying. The trilogy, I feel, is trying to do some of the similar thing. Well, I mean,
it is.
Force Awakens is way too A New Hope is what a lot of people say, and I feel like The Last Jedi starts off doing the kind of building on like
I think
we
the
want to
Rey
see.
Luke thing was a really good.
Yeah,
my memory of Last Jedi is forever that the Rey Luke stuff was actually some of the best parts of.
It was a good continuation.
Whether you liked how it worked or not, it was dramatically interesting and continuous.
Yeah. I think some of the other characters' continuations are probably what feel more frustrating to some audiences, because Finn goes off with this brand new character, which fine to introduce new characters, but like, we had Poe, who's kind of like stranded in this really badly written, what do we call it?
Mutiny? Not quite mutiny.
Crisis of confidence, we'll say. Crisis of confidence thing. Like, we should want to be able to trust Leia, and we should be able to trust her people. Like, that whole plot line is just very unsatisfying, I think, for people who want to see a continuation of who Poe and Finn were from the previous movie.
Yeah, I think the problem is in some ways, we got one thing in Force Awakens, and then it kind of like, let's rejigger everything and spend another time building new conflicts instead of expanding the ones that
we already had,
which might be okay if you had.
It is also building the deal with Rey and Kylo,
which I feel like is actually one of the better, stronger parts from my memory of the movie. There's just there's some weird internal choices as well that
there is
as a middle movie, and the other problem is it's hard to know. It doesn't have as clean of a here's what happens. Like, you get to Empire Strikes Back, you have all these things that need to be finished up. And I think Last Jedi, you just have basically Rey's in charge. Like, I don't know.
It's vague. Like, we know that there's still bad guys out there to be taken care of, but like the direction is still fuzzy, which is not where you really want to be, I think,
because you kill that one.
Yeah.
And so also then like you cut off a plot line, you're like, which is not, I mean... Trilogy is not the best way to do that. Like, if you had a series and you like subvert expectations and you're like, oh, this is going to be interesting. What do we do for the next couple?
Yeah. And
or there's maybe just too many subversions in one movie for a...
Well, yeah, I think that's probably what the people who most dislike Rian Johnson, that's probably why. He feels like, I'll do this and I'll really surprise you here. Which
can be fun. And like, I love his like Knives Out subversions of the mystery genre and stuff. But I think it's almost too much. Yeah.
Based on the reaction.
And also coming off of, in some ways, kind of a vanilla setup for the first one. I mean, if there was more continuity between the three, you might be able to get away with it more.
Possibly. Yeah, those movies were a lot of fun watching and talking about coming out, and to go see, we've done that. Yeah, but yes, as time has gone on, it's just one of those things like, I think there's a lot of holes here.
Maybe that's the thing with middle. If the middle really is about connecting the beginning to the end, it has to hold up continuity of theme, of character. And I think for trilogies or series, that's really important. Whatever you're changing, you still got to keep some of that bone. Like or change it subtly. Like, you can change it bit by bit, but not like...
Sure. As flawed as they are, I do think the second two Pirates of the Caribbean movies actually did this well when they were transforming the Pirates movies from just being a one-off to a trilogy.
I think it kind of convoluted, but I don't think the middle's bad.
Well, I mean, there are things about, I think the second one it falls into the trap of like, we got to make our second one of the trilogy as dark as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm like, I don't care.
You don't have to do that.
I don't, just because George Lucas did it doesn't mean you have to.
It makes sense kind of when you're the rebel caused empire.
Yeah, it does there, but... At the very least, the second Pirates movie does like build on the world in the front half and then give a direction. All right, we got to go save Jack. Just like we got to go save Han. We got to go save Jack Sparrow.
And it builds on all the characters. And they're not, I mean, they have new sides to them, but they're not inconsistent with the old.
Yes, with the characters themselves and their relationships with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other trilogies worth talking about working? I mean, like Back to the Future basically it just kind of ramps up it does the same thing it plays interestingly with things recurring. Like,
yeah. New ideas, fresh ideas.
But like that family things happen again when they get old,
Yeah.
father son sort of stuff, which is interesting.
Yeah. It does the natural things like we went to the past, then we got to go to the future, the far off future of 2015.
Yeah, exactly. And then like say Batman trilogy, like Nolan ones. I mean, that's more of a thematic.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But it pushes the character a little more, asks different questions, does something to do with Gotham, but it's very in line with the world created.
Yeah.
And it just says, okay, we know this. Now what if we push it a little farther? What happens?
It's interesting compared the talking about middles of trilogies, the Two Towers book versus movie. Because the book, it's an odd beast. Like you've got the Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli stuff that is just they're kind of finding a new mission, and they're going like first they're chasing after Merry and Pippin, and then they're off doing their thing. It's kind of all over the place in some ways. And the movie tries to bring that to a climax at Helm's Deep, whereas the book goes a little bit farther. And basically, I'm not sure what the climax is. I guess it's Pippin looking at the plans here.
Well, yeah. The weird thing, though, about that is hopefully I'm quoting this right. I believe Tolkien actually, it was one book in his head. And they said it was too big, so they split into 3.
So he doesn't necessarily think of them as...
So he doesn't think of them as 3 separate.
That's a fair point.
Which makes sense because Two Towers, it is the middle. I mean, in every sense.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it's messy. I don't think it loses momentum, but it doesn't have that clean beginning, middle, end inside the book itself.
Not as much, except for, I will say, the very ending of Two Towers.
Yes.
I think is one of Tolkien's best cliffhangers he's ever done.
Yes.
Ever did.
And it's so frustrating because and then you have to read all of book 5 until you get to
till you find out what happened to Frodo.
And those first 3 chapters in Mordor are just brutal.
Yeah. No, that is a regret that I have about the movies, that they couldn't pull off that particular cliffhanger, at least in the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point. It's, as a book, it is the middle point, but it's not quite the same feel.
It's not set up as a standalone middle.
Yeah.
Its theory is like middle of an epic.
It's the middle of 6 books, not the middle of 3 books.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it does do the expanding and building the world and moving the pieces around, because some of the middles are just moving pieces around.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, I think that's all we've got for that. I think we've
I really do like Empire Strikes Back was a great blueprint for middle of a trilogy, but I think you can apply a lot of that to just single stories too.
Yeah. And the nice thing about using it is it's relatively simple. As opposed to things get very complicated in books or longer series. But then I think a lot of it still, the general ideas still stand, even though they might get messier or more complicated.
Sure.
All right. So that is our story school on middles.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! So I guess next we'll go to soundtrack. So Tim, we'll do your soundtrack first. I think you have a very new and unheard of game here.
Okay, so yes, I picked a remix from Final Fantasy VI, which I've used a lot. But to be fair, it's been like 90 some episodes since I touched Final Fantasy VI, or at least since I used it. I think one of our guests, I think Nate Chin, used a Final Fantasy VI remix.
Well, there's just so much good music and remix. There's lots of remixes.
Exactly, and Final Fantasy VI has probably the most definitive middle of any video game I can think of, where the world breaks apart, and so there's a very definite first half of the game and second half of the game.
And I was thinking when you mentioned this, 6 in some ways is the middle of the evolution of Final Fantasy.
That's a fair point.
It really is the pinnacle of the
old style.
6 and 7 together are the middle, really.
Well, yeah, but 7 is really like the birth of the 3D era of Final Fantasy, which we're still in basically, and 6 is like the pinnacle of the
2D pixel
style. So anyway, so this is a remix of a song, basically the climactic battle of the middle.
Yes.
Just before the world gets broken apart. The name of the remix, appropriately enough, is Evisceration. And this is by Flex Style, and it is as aggressive as the name should suggest, but I hope you will enjoy it nonetheless.
Welcome back. Hopefully you survived that onslaught of sound.
Yeah.
Anyways, we are now, for our second half, going to do a little bit of Challenge Accepted. All right, so we have decided that we went to Project Gutenberg, where there's lots of books.
Lots of free books.
Lots of free books.
A lot of classic books.
And we're going to each pick several and read from the middle, approximately the middle of the book, and see if the other person can guess what classic book this is from.
Yes. Getting right in the middle of the action.
Yes. So, Tim, do you want to go first or shall I?
I can go first.
Okay, go for this.
Okay, so here we go.
All right, I'm going to close my eyes and envision.
All right. But there was no hilarity in the little town that same tranquil Saturday afternoon. The Harpers and Aunt Polly's family were being put into mourning with great grief and many tears.
Wait, is this Tom Sawyer?
It is Tom Sawyer.
All right, yay.
Good job. Yeah, I kind of figured going to this, the characters' names might be the easiest giveaway for here.
Which is helpful. We almost need to keep a timer to see how fast. Just keep reading until we find it.
Yeah, I might try that. That was pretty quick. I should have timed that.
Also, I have Tom Sawyer on my desk to reread in case I want to do something with it for school.
Oh, nice.
So my brain was already kind of in Tom Sawyer land.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not sure I would always have got it that fast. But
that was impressive. Was it Aunt Polly? I guess
Aunt Polly's what got it.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
When I was the hilarity, I'm like, okay, this is an older book. Well, they're all kind of older, but there's some 1900. I mean, there's early 1900 books in Gutenberg.
Yes, sure.
All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll go start timer.
This is chapter 13.
Okay, all right.
So, Dr. Seward's diary. The funeral was arranged for the next succeeding day, so that Lucy and her mother might be buried together. I attended to all the ghastly formalities, and the urbane undertaker provided that his staff were afflicted or blessed with something of his own obsequious suavity. Even the woman who performed the last offices for the dead remarked to me, in a confidential, brother professional way, when she had come out from the death chamber, "She makes a very beautiful corpse, sir. It's quite a privilege to attend on her. It's not too much to say that she will do credit to our establishment." I noticed that Van Helsing never kept far away.
Okay, I should know this, but I don't.
Van Helsing, yeah, that's your clue.
Yeah, like I know that name, but I know it more from the Hugh Jackman movie than anything.
Okay, well, what does that have to do with the Hugh Jackman movie?
Dracula?
Dracula.
Okay.
This is Dracula. I've never read Dracula. I would like to.
I've never read Dracula either. Well, there you go.
I'm like, this might be hard. And I'm like, Van Helsing. Oh, he'll get that when I get there.
Okay, I got it in like 40 seconds.
It was a long passage. So.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
So I guess that means it's my turn next.
Yes.
What I say? I speak true when I say that buck two devils. This was Francois' speech the next...
Call the Wild.
Yes, good job.
See, I just read that this year. So
I knew you taught this book.
That's Perrault, I think.
Sure.
Perrault, or his partner. It's one of those two guys.
I think it's Francois.
Francois, okay.
That's impressive. You got it within like the first sentence.
Really. Oh, man. All right.
You're on a roll here.
There are some classics I know. All right.
I mean, you've taught that one how many times now?
3. No, 2. It's only been my second time.
Oh, okay.
So
nice.
But all right, this one I'm not giving you the title, but you'll get it hopefully pretty quick. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
This is book 12.
Okay.
After we were clear of the river Oceanus and had got out into the open sea, we went on till we reached the Aegean Islands, where there was dawn and sunrise as in other places. We then drew our ship on the sands, got out of her onto the shore, where we went to sleep and waited till day should break. Then, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, I sent some men to Circe's house to fetch the body of Elphenor. We cut firewood from a wood where the headland jutted out into the sea, and after we wept over him and lamented him, we performed his funeral rites. When his body and armor had been buried to ashes, we raised the cairn, set a stone over it, and at the top of the cairn, I think that's how you say it? That's how you say C-A-I-R-N?
I think so. I mean, there's probably more of a lilt to it or
yeah,
something.
Well, I can't manage that. We fixed the oar that had been used to row with. While we were doing all this, Circe, who knew we got back from the house of Hades, dressed herself and came to us as fast as she could. I don't know. You want to keep reading?
Is this the Odyssey?
It is the Odyssey.
Okay.
Great job.
I was about to go in a wrong direction, then I was like, wait, Circe. I'm pretty sure that's like some sort of
there's like a
mythological
witch lady.
thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, this is a translation by, this on the Gutenberg version, so it's a translation by Samuel Butler. So it's in prose, not in poetry.
Oh,
so
okay.
it depends on your cup of tea. But
okay, interesting. Yeah.
Good job. I have a little harder. Those are kind of hard. This,
I had to think about that.
Yeah, to dig into that one. This, anyways. Yes.
I almost went like a Robert Louis Stevenson direction.
We had the ocean piratey sort of feel to it.
Yeah. Okay. At the first Scotch town which we reached, my guide sought out his friend and counselor to consult upon the proper and legal means of converting into his own lawful property the bonny creature.
Is this Rob Roy?
It is Rob Roy.
All right, yay!
Yeah.
I would not have got that except to have read it last year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm picking books that I know that you've read, but like I figured it's like this is obscure enough. Yeah.
The one I picked, I think is going to be I'm going to pick another version of this book. Not version, but same author, different. Anyways.
Okay.
But I think this is probably a little more fair if I do it this way. That one was going to be I don't think there was even enough names or other things in that.
Yeah, I mean, I am impressed. Even though, again, you just read Rob Roy last year, you still got it within the first sentence, which, like, I've been needing a paragraph before I'm like,
Okay, are you ready?
Ready.
All right. The weather was bad during the later days of the voyage. The wind, obstinately remaining the northwest, blew a gale and retarded the steamer. The Rangoon rolled heavily, and the passengers became impatient of the long, monstrous waves, which the waves raised before their path. A sort of tempest arose on the 3rd of November, the squall knocking the vessel about with fury, the waves running high. The Rangoon reefed all her sails, and even the rigging proved too much, whistling and shaking amid the squall. The steamer was forced to proceed slowly, and the captain estimated that she would reach Hong Kong 24 hours behind time, and more of the storm lasted. Phileas Fogg gazed at the
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think I know this until you gave me a character name. This is Around the World in 80 Days.
Yeah, you might have got it from the Hong Kong 24 hours behind, but probably not.
Yeah.
I
was all trying to think, it's like, what classic book involves a steamer and there's passengers, so it's not Moby Dick or something like that, but okay.
I originally had During the Center of the Earth, but the middle of that didn't have any names or anything. It was going to be really rough. So I figured this would at least have Phileas Fogg at some point.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, I'm gonna find a section since you've been getting these so easily.
Yeah, give me a hard section.
I'm gonna find a section that
this is probably the one you're reading for 3 minutes, and I'll have
something that doesn't have the names showing up right away. Okay, we'll try this. We sat in the dreamy room among the old strange influences which had so wrought upon me, and I learnt that she had but just come home from France, and that she was going to London. Proud and willful as of old, she had brought those qualities into such subjection to her beauty that it was impossible and out of nature, or I thought so, to separate them from her beauty. Truly, it was impossible to disassociate her presence.
Is this Great Expectations?
It is Great Expectations.
Nice.
Good job.
That's a good description of
Pip's relationship with Estella.
Yeah, it's a good thing reading their names. Exactly.
Yep.
Awesome. It's amazing if you know kind of I couldn't have quoted that or anything, but there's just the characters are so good in that book.
Yeah, they're very distinct. So yeah, good job. Yeah, I think you earned that one a little bit better.
Okay.
That time.
This one, well, we'll just do it. Okay. If you don't get this after a paragraph or two, I'll probably just tell you. This is probably not completely fair, but you'll understand.
Bring it.
There was the same dazzling red glare. The sea gasped for air with each shallow, stifled little wave that broke on the sand. I was walking slowly towards the rocks, and I could hear my forehead swelling under the sun. All that heat was pressing down on me and making it hard for me to go on. And every time I felt a blast of its hot breath strike my face, I gritted my teeth, clenched my fists in my trouser pockets, and strained every nerve in order to overcome the sun and the thick drunkenness it was spilling over me. With every blade of light that flashed off the sand, from a bleached shell or a piece of broken glass, my jaws tightened. I walked for a long time. Can we do a little more?
I want to give a yes.
Yes.
This is more going off of you than the passage, probably. But I'm gonna guess Robinson Crusoe.
It is not.
Oh, okay. Then I guess I'll need a little bit more.
I don't know if it's going to give you any more, but
all I've got is a guy walking down the beach so far.
Yeah, that's all you need with the hot sun. From a distance, I could see the small, dark mass of rock surrounded by a blinding halo of light and sea spray. I was thinking of the cool spring behind the rock. I wanted to hear the murmur of its water again, to escape the sun and the strain and the women's tears, and to find shade and rest again at last. But as I got closer, I saw that Raymond's man had come back. I could keep going on. I don't think it's going to help.
Yeah, I don't think I know this. At least
this. Ready?
Yeah, go for it.
This is The Stranger.
Is it really?
I had to do it, Tim.
I thought about doing it. I didn't even think it'd be on Project Gutenberg.
No, I had to go hunt it down somewhere else.
I should have guessed that.
And again, I go straight to the middle, like the middle page, because it's on PDF. And it's about him on the beach with hot sun, which is exactly why he kills somebody.
I should have thought. I mean, it's been 20 years.
I wouldn't recognize it either. It was too good to pass up. It was too good to pass up.
Oh, brother. Okay.
All right.
Well, let's see. This one, I don't know if this will be tricky or not.
Because I didn't get to do our Once Upon a Scene this time. So
finally had to bring back The Stranger.
Yes, one last time.
Oh, goodness.
For nostalgia's sake.
All right, let's see what you can do here. Walking in the shadow of a dream, as it were, and perhaps actually under the influence of a species of somnambulism, Mr. Dimsdale reached the spot where now so long since...
Scarlet Letter.
Scarlet Letter, yeah. Okay, see, I wasn't sure how well you know Scarlet Letter. I mean...
See, so Dimsdale used to be a verb in my house.
Oh, really?
Yes. Do Dimsdale yourself.
Oh, okay.
Because it was for me. So Dimsdale, I don't know if at some point...
Yeah, I've read it.
He flogs himself because of his guilt.
Okay.
So it's one that I used to use it for, like, whenever I have to, like, punch myself just to, you have to feel bad enough.
Yeah.
So I would Dimsdale myself.
You know what? I was thinking I hadn't really heard you talk about Scarlet Letter that much, but now that you mention that, I'm sure I've seen it in something you've written.
It's interesting, though, because I literally haven't read it since high school, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, that's when I read it.
Yeah.
It's one of those books that, like, if you're of a certain age, you read it in high school. I think.
I would like to read it again. I probably would appreciate it more than I did then.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's certainly stuck in my head well enough since then.
I remember reading Hawthorne, Young Goodman Brown. Have you read that? That's an interesting one. And then in college, I read Rappaccini's Daughter. Really, he does really interesting with, like, religious biblical symbolism. And I know he's an interesting author. I've not read, what did Natasha read? House of the Seven Gables. I think that's Hawthorne.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think it's a novel.
That's honestly probably about all I know of Hawthorne is the Scarlet Letter.
Well, that's his most famous for, I think.
He didn't do Rip Van Winkle, did he?
No, that was
the other
Irving.
Guy. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They were all like same time period.
Right,
yeah.
right. Well, we got time, Nick, and that's...
I got a little... Here, I got one, kind of bonus one here.
Okay.
This is Stranger is my bonus one, but... I'm not sure I want to read this first... do I want to read this first paragraph? I'll just go with it. It'll give you... Okay. I fear thee, ancient mariner. I fear thy skinny hand, and thou art long and lank and brown.
Is this rhyme of the ancient mariner?
It is. It's a great poem. Have you read the poem before?
I don't think so, but it's a little fresh in my mind because of Clavin.
Well, that's why I picked it, because I want to reread it, but it's a beautiful poem.
It was referenced in a book that we read for our small group not long ago.
That's where you have the line, water everywhere and not a drop to drink.
I'm pretty sure I have a grandfather who memorized that when he was at school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's long. Maybe easier than some to memorize, but there's a very nice cadence and a lot of rhyme going on with it.
Yeah, I'm sure once you know the rhythm pretty well, it'd be a lot easier to remember. Okay, Nick, I pulled this off my bookshelf.
Okay.
And we'll see if I'm being a little bit more vague here.
Okay, go for it.
You've had it easy.
I've had it
so
easy.
far.
I've had it easy. Okay.
So let's see what we got. During a subsequent visit, however, Chang told him that there were other books published up to about the middle of 1930, which would doubtless be added to the shelves eventually. They had already arrived at the Lamasery. We keep ourselves fairly up to date, you see, he commented. There are people who would hardly agree with you, replied Conway with a smile. Quite a lot of things have happened in the world since last year, you know. Nothing of importance, my dear sir, that could not have been foreseen in 1920 or that will not be better understood in 1940. You're not interested, then, in the latest developments of the world crisis? I shall be very deeply interested, in due course.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, this next
Give me more. Yeah, I not ringing the bell.
You know, Chang, I'm beginning to understand you. You're geared differently. That's what it is. Time means less to you than it does to most people. If I were in London, I wouldn't always be eager to see the latest hour-old newspaper, and you at Shangri-La are no more eager to see a year-old one.
Whoa. Is this Lost Horizon?
It is.
You have a book of Lost Horizon?
I got this at a library book sale not too long ago, just like you.
Wow, nice.
I was just like,
I had to read that.
I'm curious about this because we watched the movie with Brian Shershel for Cinema Selections way back in the day.
And I was tempted after watching It's Wonderful Life again this year, being like, I need to watch that movie again. It was a good movie.
Yeah, for sure. So
okay, like Chang, I'm like, this weird Conway. I'm like, I don't know. That's a weird. And then Shangri-La, obviously. Then
I think Shangri-La might, but
yeah,
I was giving it some build up to it.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the whole. Well, it's either really easy or you're not going to get it.
Okay.
But I had to get the middle of this book, which was interesting. That evening left Marius profoundly shaken, with a melancholy shadow in his soul.
Is this Les Mis?
It is.
Les Miserables, I should say. Excuse me.
I'll tell you what. Finding the middle of this book was something else. There are.
I imagine so.
There was 5 books, and inside of those have 8 sections each. Each of those have chapters in front. I'm like, I don't know. So I just wanted to find the middle.
Trying to find the middle on a website as opposed to a book makes it a little trickier.
Well, I actually just did it via the chapters, but I guess it went based on the approximately here be what is this chapter? I don't even know these guys' name. Good thing I didn't pick that part.
Yeah.
Random French people.
Yeah, I just happened to recognize Mary. That feels good. I actually recognized it from a character name right away.
Good job. Oh, the Friends of ABC is what I might give you, which would have been much harder.
Yeah.
Monsieur Marius Pontmercy, or how do you say it? Good book. All right, that was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
I enjoy that because it's like, you did a very good job picking good books. I was a little more mean.
That's okay. I mean,
and then sometimes the middle just didn't have much. I mean, I didn't tweak it a lot. I mean, Van Helsing you got pretty well once you got the name.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny that as soon as you can recognize a character name, you really helps. Ground you.
It does. It helps. Like suddenly, like, oh, okay, I know where we are.
I mean, unless you really know the story, like we didn't even get to a name when I read Call of the Wild.
Well, you said Buck.
Did I say? Oh, okay, Buck, Two Devils. Yeah,
yep.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
So that one, I mean,
like I bet if you had done something from like Treasure Island, I would have recognized that right away.
Yeah,
mostly because I've read.
When you got hit Philly's Fog, you got it right away.
Yeah.
If I'd done Treasure Island, and plus there's a very distinct style to that one.
There is, and I just know that I read that one multiple times. So
I thought about going like, I'm going to find the middle of the Bible and see if we can. Right, Psalm 109, 111 or something like that.
Something, yeah.
Or 109 or whatever. They say that's the middle chapter.
Oh, 119?
119. That's the middle chapter of the Bible, I think, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Though it's like the longest chapter in the Bible.
Yes.
It seems appropriate. Yeah,
it does seem appropriate. All about the meditating on God's law.
Yeah, that fits.
That fits.
So
middles are interesting. They're not as quite as... middles are not as memorable as beginnings and ends.
Yes.
But they're... vital.
They are.
Like when you watch a movie, like you always have that favorite scene. It's usually just a scene, but like you gotta get through it's usually at the end or the beginning. You gotta go get through all the stuff first. And then like, finally, but it's worth it. I mean, if you do it right, the buildup makes it worth it.
Absolutely. People will sometimes quote the first line of something or the last line of something. Yeah. No one's gonna quote a middle sentence in chapter 23.
Not usually,
50.
unless it's very pithy or very moving. I mean
something by itself, but it's not known for being from the middle of the book.
No,
necessarily.
No,
but
and I guess that's where we live right now, is in the middle of everything.
Yeah,
kind of a mess. Sometimes
that's true. I mean, I guess there's something more milestoney about the beginning or the ending of something, but real life is usually just in the middle of stuff.
Yep. Right. That good.
I think that's about. I mean, it's going to be a lopsided podcast a little bit, but
fine.
Yeah. So we didn't find a clean middle point in this podcast, but
it fits. It fits.
It fits. It'll still wind up being about our usual length.
Okay, that sounds good.
All
right. Then that guy's still just staring at it. I feel pretty soon he's going to use lots of fancy words and lecture us about
stuff.
Choice.
I have a feeling it's going to sound more deep than it actually is.
Yes. I'm done with that. We're done.
Yeah, let's find a way to exit out of here.
Yeah. Well,
but
Control
first,
Alt Delete.
yeah, that's a good idea. But first, I think you have a soundtrack.
I do have a soundtrack. So I decided to pick a song from Myst 3. There's 5 kind of standalone Myst games. Then there's Uru, which is a whole different thing. I just recently started playing Myst 3.
Oh, really?
It was on sale on goodoldgamesgog.com.
Oh, and you just recently bought a new computer, right? So you can actually play stuff?
Exactly. Like, hey, new computer, $4 for a Myst. Let's buy it.
I bet your old computer could have played
it
Myst.
could have. It's one of those things that's almost that it could have played Myst. It was one of those mental things like, ooh, shiny computer. You don't have to wait 15 minutes for it to start up. Like, you press it on and it's ready to go.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, I forgot. Computers. There's a thing.
They work. Yeah.
They work. Yeah. So this is called American Wheels of Wonder. It's remixed by Maze Dude, which I've had a couple times. So you have Final Fantasy 6. I have Maze Dude. It's good.
Yeah. We're back to our standards here.
It's from his American album, which is an amazing album. I've brought multiple things from that.
Probably.
I mean,
it predates
Gems is from that.
Oh, okay. I know it predates when Maze Dude was on our show.
That was for American Pixels.
Yeah,
which is his newer one.
It came out after this one. Yeah.
Yes. So, anyways, it's his normal kind of chill, aggressive ambient.
Chill, aggressive ambience.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes, sure. Hopefully you enjoy it. And until next time.
And if you did, feel free to share this podcast with people.
I guess we should say, yes.
You can share it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I hear Stitcher is going out of business.
Okay.
Or closing down.
We pay so much attention to Stitcher.
Well, apparently, yeah. I don't know anyone listened to this on Stitcher.
No.
Apparently it was important for some people, but I think you'll go find your podcasts on Spotify now.
Yes. And visit our website, derailed and leave comments.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you.
Tell us we would love to hear from you.
Oh, yes.
So next episode, as we've been saying for a while, is going to be our last one before undetermined amount of time hiatus.
Yes.
But we would love if you have something that you remember about the podcast, a favorite segment, a time that you just really, something we said profound or ridiculous, or, a scene that you're just like, that was hilarious. Send us, you can send us a comment, but we would love a little audio clip.
Yeah.
We might use it in the next episode. We'd just like to hear some of your, greatest hits of
the Derailed Trains of Thought. Yeah, we normally keep our plans for future episodes kind of close to our chest, but in this case, we're just going to let you know we're going to be talking about nostalgia because it feels appropriate for...
After doing 150 episodes and taking a break, you look back and see what's been going on.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll talk about nostalgia just as a story school concept first, but we'll look at a lot of our old segments and looking at how they've... changed over time. It'll be a bit of a clip show of sorts. So
if you have a clip that you just remember finding entertaining, great, meanful,
one of your favorites,
tell us.
Like you said, greatest hits.
Like Zach, if you want to send your best soundtrack that you ever listened to, that'd be great. The one he accidentally didn't skip.
That's right. That'd be fantastic. But yes, you can simply just record it on your phone, keep it to within 30 seconds, no more than a minute, and then you can email us at derailedtrains@gmail.com, or you can send us a DM on Facebook or Twitter, X.
Yep.
Either one of those ways, we would love to be able to include you on the show.
I think that's finally everything.
I think that's all.
So we'll get going with American Wheels of Wonder, and until next time, this has been Nick.
And this is Tim.
Adios.
Bye-bye.